Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and we are back for our final video in this series, which is the Wood Elves, and looking at what they currently have available to buy right now from the Warhammer web store. We're focusing only on the Warhammer web store. Yes, there are other places to go, but when Warhammer The Old World releases on the 20th of January and all the rules are available for everybody to get hold of, what can you actually buy right now in terms of putting an army together? We've covered every single faction except for the High Elves, because the High Elves don't have any miniatures available to buy. So let's see how the Wood Elves do. The Wood Elves, another core faction we've seen in a lot of cases, with the exception of ignoring Bretonnia and Tomb Kings because they're part of the main flagship release. Warriors of Chaos and Beastmen doing pretty good. High Elves, Dwarves, Empire, all not in the best place in terms of what they have available. So you'd expect these guys to probably be next up on the release schedule, though expecting that to be much slower than what we see in terms of things like 40k and Age of Sigmar. So we don't know how many months or even year plus it could be before we see Wood Elves, Dwarves or Empire. But let's see what the Wood Elves have available right now. So in terms of lords, so in Age of Sigmar, you have a faction called the Sylvaneth, and they have a Tree Lord Ancient available. So yes, you could get a Tree Man Ancient Lord. This is the original plastic kit that was available back in 8th edition. You've got the Branch Wraith. Branch Wraith as a hero is available. So we've got one Lord and we've got a hero, but you'll notice the Sylvaneth are very, very tree focused. There aren't really any Wood Elves, so please bear that in mind. That's going to definitely be a theme of this video. Dryads, again, the tree side. So you can basically put a core. You've got an army here. You've got a Tree Man Lord. You have a Branch Wraith hero, and now you've got some core. So yep, you've got some infantry to put together. So far, you've got the makings of an army, right? You've got now Treekin. There are no Treekin available. If Treekin are in the army roster, this is an option. This is one that I looked at. Now, I don't know how the base sizes look, but from a scaling perspective, they look less chonky, but of the right scale height-wise, potentially. I don't own the Kurnoth Hunters. I've only seen them in the cabinet, but I think Kurnoth Hunters could be an interesting choice to cover off Treekin. I think that definitely is an option. And then, of course, they do fit with the Dryads, with the Tree Men. So if you are going on a very tree-heavy army and less LV army, then they definitely fit within the aesthetic. And, of course, because you've got the Tree Man Ancient, you also have a Tree Man, because essentially it is the same kit with different options. So yes, you have that available as well, which is a Sylvaneth Tree Lord. Now, if you put Tree Man in, you won't get what you want. You need to put in Tree Lord. But we're already on to rare. And that's it. So this is a quite short video, but similar to Empire and Dwarves. In fact, worse than certainly Empire and Dwarves. They have a huge amount missing. And that's because all these guys were in Cities of Sigmar before they got removed, when obviously Cities of Sigmar started doing more of their releases. And in fact, a lot of Wood Elf stuff was removed right at the beginning of Age of Sigmar, when the 8th and Warhammer Fantasy essentially was shut down. So we're looking at what is missing. Well, you're missing your Glade Lord and your Spell Weaver, so you've got no magic in there, no melee, sort of all the elf stuff really. You're missing your Glade Captain, your Spell Singer, your Shadow Dancer, and your Waystalker, all missing. The core, Glade Guard, Glade Rider, Eternal Guard. So, I'm not going to go through it. You can read the list here. There's an awful lot missing. You could kind of put a Wood Elf list together with just your trees, but it isn't really going to feel like a Wood Elf list. So a bit like, Dwarfs in that faction, you can put some Dwarf stuff out there, but they're missing all their ranged units and all their war machines. You can play it, but it's not going to feel like Wood Elves. It's not going to feel like Dwarfs. So keeping the theme of a lot of the core armies being in a really bad place, in that You couldn't go out and buy a Wood Elf army today, not even with some missing units or some counts as stuff. It's very difficult to do so. So you would kind of expect Empire, High Elves, Dwarves, Wood Elves to be earlier than like Beastmen and Warriors of Chaos, who you can pretty much, I mean, Warriors of Chaos and Beastmen, you can make full armies of right now with what's available. You just cannot do that with Wood Elves, right? They're unplayable unless you have another source. Those other sources either being third parties, but you can't use those in Games Workshop shops if you play there, or in Games Workshop official tournaments if you do those. Obviously, you know, if you're playing at home or you're just doing unofficial game clubs and stuff like that, obviously fill your boots, 3D prints, and there's actually I've seen some great 3D prints of Wood Elf stuff, or you can go to third-party sites like eBay and pick up some old stuff. We can only hope that we might start to see some of this stuff. But as a core faction, they will come out, the units will come out, there will be re-releases and maybe some new ones to boot as well. So, yeah, core factions outside of Bretonnia and Tomb Kings, struggling with the exception of Warriors of Chaos and Beastmen, and it keeps the theme of those legacy armies, which we know are not allowed in official tournaments, that we know aren't getting new rules and new miniatures. They still remain the best served in terms of compared to a lot of the core factions. So, you know, you can see yourself actually, you know, Vampire Counts, Lizard Men right now, you could actually put a pretty damn good army together. So that brings us to the end of this series. Now, someone did mention about using Lumineth Realm Lords as High Elves, and I'm considering whether it's viable to put a video together looking at Lumineth Realm Lords as High Elves. One of my big issues with the Realm Lords and the High Elves is it's quite a different aesthetic when you look at the original miniatures versus the Realm Lords. And of course, we know as a core faction, they are going to be released. There's going to be probably a whole bunch of those older units. And I think even the newer miniatures are going to have, of course, they need to match that older aesthetic. So if you go down the Lumineth route, you're kind of stuck in the Lumineth route without it, because if you mix them, it's just going to look a bit weird. So I'm considering whether we're going to do that or not. But essentially, we're at the end of this series. You know, hopefully in the not too distant future, and I'm hoping in the matter of a day or two, I should have my hands on a copy of the books for Warhammer The Old World, and we'll start digging into the rules, start digging into some faction focuses. Just some points to note as we wrap this series up is I am moving house, I am moving country. All of my miniatures, 30 years worth of collection of miniatures has been packed up. All my books, I no longer have access to look at my 8th edition books. That's all packed up. And not only am I moving house, I'm moving country. So I'm about a month without a lot of this stuff, though the Old World books at least will be in my hand luggage. So I'll be able to go through that and keep producing content. I'm going to keep producing as much content as I can, as long as I feel it is valuable and worthwhile. I'm not going to just produce stuff for the sake of it that's just garbage. So please bear with me. I will be trying to get stuff out as and when I can. But it has to be useful and informative, because that's what this channel is about. I won't be doing battle reports. That's not the point of this. This is very much an information, looking at Warhammer community, Old World news, and then looking at faction focuses, looking at rules, potentially when tournaments start happening, looking at tournaments, seeing how army lists are doing, seeing how people are placing, how factions are doing, that sort of thing. So very much that is the flavour of the content that is coming. But yes, please do bear with me. I will get out what I can in terms of content, and I hope you all find it useful. And on that note, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below if you do that. If you want to keep seeing more content, you can really help me out by clicking that subscribe button. Totally free, doesn't cost you a thing, but it's a massive, massive deal for me. So thank you for that in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.